another episode of Extraordinary God, Ordinary People podcast. I have the lovely Ashley Shelley coming on this week. Thank you again. Thank you for joining me. We always start these off with an icebreaker question. You are in my hometown that I grew up in, so what is your favorite Mexican restaurant in Orlando?
I really love Tin and Taco. My husband and I go there a lot, like after church, which is probably really bad because they give you so much food. So he usually gets like the nachos, and it's like a whole plate of nachos with like everything on it. And then I get like the quesarito, like burrito or something, and it's like bigger than my head. So I eat it within like 3 days, which is crazy.
That's honestly a good like budgeting thing too.
Oh yeah, it's like a good meal prep thing, but it's not really like healthy meal prep. It's like convenient meal prep, I guess you could say. But
No, I think I've actually been there before, and I need to take Ike next time that we're in there. But I will agree with you that is one of the best
I
Mexican
will definitely
restaurants
like it.
there. Yeah.
There's so many choices.
There- Okay. Yes, he needs a lot of choices. You know him, but he'll look at the menu and he'll pretty much know what he wants by the time that we walk in there. Or Gareth would do that too, because Gareth would literally study the menu at Cane's. I don't know if they ever told you this story. He would study the menu at Cane's, and Ike and Evan were like, "It's just chicken fingers. Like, there's nothing else for you to choose at Raising Cane's than chicken fingers. Why are you studying the
I
menu?"
could I could see Gareth doing that now that I think about it. He
Yeah.
like over analyzing the menu.
So I was like, okay, that sounds pretty much just like Gareth, because he goes, I get nervous when I order, and I'm like, it's just three or the box combo. Like, there's nothing else for you to say.
Then you have like the
But
dipping sauces too. It's like
yeah, I guess too many options. But
yeah.
but I just love being able to talk to everyone about their story because I truly believe there's a power behind a testimony. God has used us in so many different ways from where we've come to where we are now. And so, can you kind of take me back to, I would say, little Ashley? Kind of how did you grow up? Where did you kind of come into your faith? Were you born into a family that went to church, or what did that kind of look like for you?
Yeah, so I grew up mainly in the church. I remember going to church when I was a little girl. Did you hear that actually? Sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay, cool. So I grew up mainly in the church. I remember going to church when I was a little girl. My mom and my dad, they baptized me when I believe I was like 2 months old. So I have a little picture of just like the pastor and I, like we were on the church steps, and it was like little baby Ashley like being baptized. But I was actually adopted. So my birth mother, she was actually incarcerated in jail and stuff in the state of Florida, and I was fostered when I was like like as a baby, honestly. So I remember just going to the church with my mom and dad, and I pretty much knew Jesus like my whole life.
That's really, that's a crazy story. I thought being 10 months old, being baptized was young. 2 months old is crazy.
Yeah. I remember looking back on the picture and asking my dad, I was like, "How old was I?" He's like, "Yeah, you were 2 months old." And I looked at him just like, "Really?"
You're like, okay.
Okay.
So, was having a family that grew up in the church something that I wouldn't say that you knew that you wanted, but looking back, was that something that's kind of helped you through your faith journey, or was that something that kind of, for me, I wouldn't say hindered it, but I didn't really realize as I got older that I had a relationship with Jesus. I just knew a lot of things. So, what did that kind of look like for you as you got older?
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that because when I was younger, I felt like my life was like, well, whenever you're a child, you feel like life is pretty easy. Like, you don't got bills to pay, you don't have any responsibilities. All you got to do is make good grades and make sure you say yes or no, man. Like, all
Yeah.
that good stuff. But I feel it definitely helped me as I became an adult because I realized how, I guess, blessed I was to have that foundation. But also, as you get older, like, when you go to college and like do your own thing, whenever you move out, it's like you want to make your own decisions, and you kind of like, for me, I drifted away when I was in college. But when I was younger, my mom actually passed away when I was 3, and it was just me and my dad. And I remember just my dad was an elder in the church. He was a great faith leader and stuff. So I just remember just going to church no matter what. And then when he passed away, that's whenever I started like questioning. I'm like, is this Like, if, sorry, I'm stumbling.
You're good.
If then my dad passed away, and I was like, you know what does this mean? Like, why would a God who is so good take something away from me? Like, I was thinking, where am I going to live? Who am I going to be with? Like, how am I going to, I was so confused in my life. So I think definitely, like, with looking back on that, I was grateful to have just like a relationship with Jesus. Well, not really relationship, because like you said, when you're younger you knew of Jesus, but you didn't really understand like what having a relationship with Jesus was, because you grow up hearing the parables and going to Bible school, and like you memorize Bible verses other than understanding and what the Lord is trying to do and speak to you in your life. So that's what it was like whenever I was younger. And then when both my parents passed away, the church, gratefully enough, found a family for me to stay with whenever I was in high school. And their names were Craig and Lori Alstrom. And those, whenever I talk like mom and dad, I kind of call them mom and dad. So that way, whenever I talk to my friends, they're like, oh, yeah, mom and dad, but which ones? So it's not really like confusing for people,
Yeah.
because even I was explaining to my best friend's boyfriend yesterday, he's like, so this was, I was like, just mom and dad. It's
Just mom.
okay.
Yeah.
Everyone's mom and dad in my family now.
I love it.
So, but the cool thing about that situation, and even looking back from whenever I was a child, not knowing really what's going on, and now looking back as an adult, actually like having a relationship with the Lord and understanding His Word and stuff, that Lori and Craig, their son recently passed away too with leukemia, and I needed parents. So they had a room empty in a heart, like a hole in their heart for a child. And it's so cool and magnificent how the Lord kind of crafted that relationship, because I was the child they were praying for. They were the parents I needed in that season of life. And then ever since then, I mean, looking back, I'm like, wow, like we serve and worship an amazing God who works behind the scenes, where it's sometimes hard to explain until you sit down and like look back and see, how can I tell this story? How can I what's it called? How can I encourage people with my story and stuff like that? So sorry, that was a long-winded answer.
No,
But
I love that. No, like, thank you for opening up, because I'm so sorry that happened, but I really admire your just like perseverance and the way that you kind of look back on it now, and I'm like, no, God actually was in it. Because I know people who sadly have lost parents who are still far away from the church, who to them it was just the hardest thing ever, and I commend anyone that goes through that. But it was just like kind of like what you said, how could a God that was so good to me do this to me and never turn back? So I admire you wanting to just have a relationship with Jesus and understanding that He was in the work behind it, even though it was painful, even though it was hard. There was beauty, and that He is a God of restoration at the end of the day. So I just admire that at the end of the day.
yeah.
Um, so I kind of touched on college. We did go to college together. We went to Arizona State together. That's how we know
Go
each other. Yes.
Devils.
How was college for you? I know you kind of touched on kind of turning away, but what did that kind of look like for you and kind of making your own decisions at that point?
So, sorry, I have to write my nose. College was, it was a lot of ups and downs. I think the up was, moving out. Like I was like, oh, I'm an adult now. Like we doing the big girl stuff now. And from going from, and you can relate to this, from going from Florida to Arizona, it was like a night and day difference, because I remember in Florida, like everyone is so nice, like everyone you could like talk to, and like talk to a random person in the elevator. I remember going up to our dorm in Taylor Place, and there's like multiple people in the elevator. I was like, oh my gosh, hi, how are you? They're like, good. I was like, oh, okay, never mind. We're not, this ain't Kansas, sweetheart. This ain't Kansas anymore. So I remember telling myself, I was like, okay, this is going to be different, but this is a good change, because I knew I needed to move out of Florida. I knew, because I remember just growing up in a small town. It's like you don't really see a lot of things, and you
Yeah.
grow up with the same people from the day you were born to the day you graduate high school. So I knew I needed to make new friends, challenge myself, and also be a reporter. And at first it was a lot of ups and downs, but I think first off, it's like college was the year that I drifted. I think once COVID hit, like it was horrible. Like I remember I lost a lot of weight, I was anxious, I was depressed, I was on anxiety medication, fell into drinking very, very heavily, which I 100% regret. It was sexual sin, feeling lost and broken, and just trying to find that void. Because COVID, I couldn't go home and see my parents. Like, I couldn't book a flight. Everything was done. Like, everything, like, you couldn't leave your house. Like, it was crazy. So, I was trying to find the peace in sin that Satan was basically rattling in my face saying, oh, this is fine, this is okay. But looking back at it, it's like Satan was slowly killing me and trying to take me away from the Lord because he knew I was a child of God. He knew that I knew the Lord in my heart. And my pastor at my church in Orlando at a live church said it very great. He called himself a Christian atheist. Like he knew who God was, but he was living like he didn't exist. And that's exactly what I was doing in college. And sometimes you know Jesus, but you're not surrendered to him. And going back to what you were saying about, whenever you're a child, you memorize the Bible verses, like, but you don't understand fully the true relationship of having a relationship with Jesus. And I think it was like I just turned 22. I just graduated my bachelor's, and that's wherever I was like, I'm over it. I'm tired. Like I'm tired of feeling hungover. I'm tired of trying to fit in with people that don't like me for who I am. Like it was crazy where it was just like a shift overnight. So I looked up churches in Arizona and I went to one that was in Mesa. And I remember that church service, like I went down to my knees and like I was just worshiping, like my hands up in the air because I felt like the Lord was like, come to me, like you're my daughter, like I forgive you. Because I think oftentimes a lot of people think they're so far gone that they can't have a true relationship with Jesus, and that's 100% true. You have so many people in the Bible, like you, Cain and Abel. You also have like David. You also have like so many people who have cheated, who have lied, who have stolen, who have killed, and like the Lord still called them to be just his messengers to the people. And it's crazy how the Lord can change someone from just a passive like brokenness to a passive like fulfillment in order to do it for other people. So, I just believe now that just looking back, I am so grateful that the Lord met me where I was at. Because like I said, I was in sexual sin. I was drinking. I was smoking. I was like going out partying like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday. And it's just like, oh, church comes on Sunday. I'm like, I'm fine. Like, I don't feel like it. I don't feel good. I'd rather go to brunch. So now looking back, I'm like, ooh, thank the Lord that the Lord met me where I was at when I was 22 because I don't miss the club. I don't miss the club.
We don't miss Mill Avenue. We don't miss
Nope,
no.
nope. Old
No.
Town Scottsdale. I don't miss it. Mm-mm.
No. After that, coming back to the Lord at 22, how did that kind of carry over, let me say, not transform, carry over with moving out? And I had the hardest time moving from college to a career. That was honestly where I fell into anxiety and depression and gotten on anxiety medications just because your whole life you're told you go to school, you get good grades, then you go to the next grade. And so for me, it was kind of like that structure and what I was told basically from 5 to 22 was kind of over and I didn't really know what was going on. So how did you kind of keep that faith and kind of that want going into a new season, into your first job?
Yeah, I meditated on the scripture of Matthew 6:30, blah, blah. Sorry. I meditated on the scripture Matthew 6:33, and I actually have it right here. I have it like bolded, highlighted, circled, and
I love
because I
it.
read it over and over again. And it says, "Seek the kingdom of God above all else, and live righteously, and He will give you everything you need. Not everything you want, everything you need." So, looking back, graduating college, I knew I needed a job, and I knew I wanted a job. And the Lord saw in my heart that I wanted to move back home, but I wanted to move to like Gainesville. I wanted to move to like Orlando. Then God put Tallahassee on my heart, and I looked at him like, he was a crazy man with like 4 eyes. I was like, oh, Tallahassee? Because my dad went to UF. A lot of my friends went to UF. I was like, I have to live in Tallahassee. Like, this is ridiculous. But I knew that I had peace about it, and I've never felt that peace before. So I think transitioning from college to getting a job, it was definitely tough, 100%. Because in the journalism field, you're always told take your first offer. Like be thankful for your first offer and stuff, like because that's where you start, which is true. But at the end of the which is true, but at the end of the day, it's like if you have the Lord and you're being, you're seeking the kingdom, like Matthew 6:33 says, it's like the Lord will give you exactly what you need. So if you're giving your needs to the Lord, saying, hey, Lord, I need your guidance when it comes to like, if I need to move to Tennessee or Florida, or I need to be in news or be in sports. Because for me, it was, had my bachelor's in sports, but I had my master's in mass communication. So I was like, do I do sports or do I do news? And the Lord like rested on me saying, you should stay in sport, like stay in news. So I was like, okay, we'll do news. I was like, darn, I really want to be a sideline reporter.
Don't we all? That's not why we all went to college for sports.
Don't we all? We want to be Aaron Andrews so bad.
That was exactly my dream.
Or Malika Andrews, man, for the NBA. But I knew whenever the Lord told me that, I knew that he was going to provide. And that's whenever, I believe it was 2 months later, I was able to get a job offer in Tallahassee. And I was like, it's Florida. I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
But I think just keeping my eyes on the Lord and realizing, number one, it was my first job. Number two, I was trying to get home. So I knew my intentions were right, and my intentions were going to glorify God in the first place. So I knew that he was going to be able to provide for what I needed. So.
Is that where you met your husband?
I did, and that's foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Because, oh my goodness. Okay. Yes.
No, you can, yeah.
I can keep going. Okay. Because this is like, it gives me chills every single time I think this. Because I remember leaving college, and I remember seeing so many reporters, they don't get married until like their late 20s or their 30s, which not debunking whatsoever, because I believe like when you know, and the Lord, if you keep the Lord in the center of your relationship, the Lord will definitely provide you and gift you with that marriage, because marriage is a covenant and it's a beautiful gift that the Lord blesses us with. So I remember going to Tallahassee, and I was so depressed. I was like, this is so weird. Like Florida State everywhere. Like
I can't handle
like it was a University of Florida, like fans' worst nightmare living in Tallahassee. But I was able to get connected to a church, and I remember whenever I got connected to that church in around like 2023, 2024, 2023, one of my friends, her name is Holly Burley, which shout out to her. I know she's probably going to be listening to this. I remember her and I and her sister going to watch Christmas lights, and she said, hey, would you like to lead a small group with me? And mind you, I just reaccepted Jesus into my heart when I was 22, and I did not think the Lord wanted me to lead. I was like, you want me to lead with you? Like, I'm not, like, literate with the word yet. Like, I'm still learning for myself, like, trying to, like, shift from, like, not modest to modest, like, all this stuff. And she's like, I think you would be perfect. You relate to people. I was like, I relate to people? I looked at her like, are you sure? So I thought about it, and I had that peace again that I felt whenever I moved to Tallahassee. And the Lord was like, give it a try. And I was like, okay. So I did it, and I remember even telling her, I was like, I am not looking for a relationship with any man in Tallahassee. I'm ready to just fulfill my contract as a news reporter and get the heck out of here and move closer to my family, away from Florida State territory. So that was my goal. So then within that church, I went to a co-ed small group, and my husband was there, and there was one seat next to him at the house. So I sat next to him, and I said, hi, my name's Ashley. He's like, Ashley, I already know who you are. It's like, this man. I was like, you're such a jerk.
Yeah, like, what do you mean you already know who I am?
What? I'm so confused. So after that, he started talking with some of my, like, guy friends and stuff, because we all do, like, sports, like, stuff together.
Yeah.
And he invited me to play pickleball with them. And I was like, okay, sure, why not? So I gave him my number, and from then we played pickleball, like, once a week, and then group pickleball sessions became, like, us two going to, like, open play together. And then one night we were sitting at Chick-fil-A, and I sat down and realized I've never really told anybody my testimony, But I felt this warmness and that peace again that I felt whenever choosing, like going to Tallahassee, leading a small group. I felt that peace again. And I just opened up to him, told him about my parents passing away, told him about me drifting away in college. Now I just reaccepted Jesus in my heart at 22. And just, he was just like, thank you for letting me know. Because I remember sharing it like with one person in the past that I was in a relationship with. And he looked at me like, oh, you're just too broken for me. You're too broken for me. And that's whenever I kind of like shied away from telling my testimony. But David was just so like open to like learning more. And he's like, how did you feel? Like, what did you like do with this and everything? And we sat in Chick-fil-A for like 2 hours. I never sat in a fast food restaurant for 2 hours before. Um, so yeah, and then we started dating, and then he met my family. My family loved him and everything. And yeah, it was crazy how, from me meditating on Matthew 6:33, saying like the kingdom of God first, and then he will provide what you need. And I did that for my job, and he moved me to Tallahassee, me thinking that it was a punishment because hello, like no. But then this whole time my husband was there, and I was not expecting to be married at 25. I was expecting to be like, I wanted to be a reporter in Atlanta. I wanted to possibly go to New York. And then now I'm just like, that can wait. I don't have to, because now it's like the Lord pointed me to something that was so much better and so much sweeter. So yeah. And there's like so many other things in between, from like the time I met him to the time we got married. So it's a whole lot more God moving too. So you can ask a question now so we can break it up a bit.
No, that's amazing. I feel the same way about being married at 25. I wanted to be actually married younger because my parents were married at 23. I was like, yeah, like that's what I'm going to do. And then they would have all, like you said, the sports reporters come in and be like, I had to ship my breast milk across the country because I had to go right back into work. Yeah, we literally had a lady tell us that at Cronkite. And I was like, never, 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 never am I going to be able to ship my breast milk across the country for my child to be fed because I have to go report on a football game. That will never, ever, ever happen. And kind of in that moment, I felt like there was just a shift that I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is not the lifestyle for me. And there were other things that happened, sadly, at Cronkite that kind of killed that dream. But I was just like, no, like, God has placed so much more want to be a mother and so many other things on my heart that are going to outweigh reporting and having to take that away from me. But yeah, it was just kind of like, why would anyone want to do that in a way? And I hate saying that because I know there are people who love their job and love doing that, but I'm just like, that's just not who I was. And I feel like you're kind of on that boat right now too, where it's like, no, that can wait. Like, I have a husband who needs me here, and God has us here for a reason, and I need to like steward this well to be able to then move into the next season. Absolutely. But what kind of question do you want me to ask about your husband? Just like, how did he ask you to marry you? I want to know that.
So, backstory on that. So, his mother, I'll lead up to that question. His mother was diagnosed with a brain tumor, like a couple weeks before he asked me to be his girlfriend.
Wow.
And I thought, like, oh, if he didn't ask me, it's totally fine. He has a season that he has to go through with his family, and I don't want to be a distraction.
Yeah.
And after that, I remember him telling me, like, hey, like, this is a season to get to know you. Like, I would love for you to be my girlfriend. And I was like, are you sure? Like, your mom, he's like, totally fine. Like, this is, like, the Lord will definitely, like, provide and everything will be fine. So I was like, okay. So because of that Christmas of 2024, I knew I wanted to go see my family. But I knew that I wanted him to see his, because you never know with a brain tumor if it gets better or worse. So I told him, we are going to spend Christmas morning with your family, and then from Tallahassee to good old Lake Placid, between like 12 and 6 before Christmas dinner, we're going to drive 6 hours to Lake Placid to spend it with mine. And he was all for it. And I will say that was like the best Christmas morning that I've ever had with any family. Like, there's so much joy in her eyes and everything. So then we saw my family, and little did I know that this Christmas would be the last Christmas for one of our families, with the whole family there. So We spent it with my mom, my dad, my grandma. It was great. And coming in March, I get a call from my dad, and he said, "Hey, I'm heading to the hospital. Your mom had a brain aneurysm." And I remember like calling David like frantically. I was like, I need to go. I need to go to Tampa. Like, and from Tallahassee to Tampa, it's a hike. Like, it is a hike. So it took me, the drive is like 4 hours. It took me 2 hours and 54 minutes. Like, I was pressing like pedal to the
Yeah.
metal all the way there. And that day, like my mom, it was her last day. Like, whenever I got there, like it was too late and everything. So I remember sitting in the hospital room and being like, this is crazy. Like, praying to God, like, I just want something good to come out of this year for my family. Just something. Like, someone could, like, you know, what? Their air conditioning bill can be like $2.
Yeah.
Like,
Anything.
anything, right? Hang on, whoopsies, my computer's about to die.
You're good.
It could be anything. So, coming to your question, a month later, David proposes. A month after my mother passed away, David proposed. And like all the sadness and everything just went away. But I was thinking, I was like, how did he ask my parents? Because we were just dating for a year at that point. Sure enough, when I went to work out during Christmas, David asked my mom and my dad Christmas Day if he can have my hand in marriage, not even knowing my mom was going to pass in March. So that's another God thing of like, if you seek the kingdom of God first, he will give you exactly what you need. And I didn't think, like, here I am thinking, like, oh, like, this is, David's mom had a brain tumor. Like, this is probably going to be her last Christmas, because we thought she was going downhill. But now, today, she's doing great. She's doing, like,
Praise Jesus.
phenomenal.
That's
Yes.
amazing.
So it comes to, like, gets to my mind where it's like, how did he know to ask my parents Christmas Day, like 8 months into us being together, to ask my parents if he can marry me? And he said that I had the discernment to ask you, and I had peace about it. And we've talked about like marriage here and there and everything, like,
Yeah.
when we wanted to, like how many kids we wanted, just like just dreaming stuff in a
Yeah.
relationship. Like, oh, we want a white picket fence house, all this stuff. But it's just true to see where it's like the Lord knows each and every step that you're going to take. And he knew exactly what David was going to do. He knew exactly what was going to happen with my mom. He knew exactly when David should have asked my parents whenever they were both there in person in the same room. And it was just great. But he proposed to me on a beach.
Ooh.
And it was just the both of us there, and he was like talking, and it was just weird. At first I was like, why is he like talking to me like super close?
We're on a
Like,
beach, like there's so much sand everywhere.
for real. And it was like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, why are we here so early? Like, I thought we were gonna go at like 10 a.m., like pitch a blanket, wear like swimsuits, go swimming.
Yeah.
But I was in a dress. And I knew we were going to brunch afterwards, so he said, oh, we're gonna walk the beach before we go to brunch. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Then he starts talking to me like this, and he's like 6'1" and I'm 5 foot. So I'm over here like my neck was like bent, and I was like, "What's happening? Like, are you okay?" And he had like a little tear in his eye. I was like, "What did I do? Like, did I make you mad?" And he starts talking about when we first met and like how he wants to spend the rest of my life with me. I was like, "Oh, it's happening! It's
You're like,
happening
okay, I
right
didn't
now."
make you mad. We're okay.
I was like, "Wait a second!" I started bawling. And then he gets down on one knee, which is funny because he's the same height as me when he's on his knees. And
That's cute.
it's pretty great. It's actually pretty funny. So he proposed, and it was honestly just like the best day ever. And I just knew like the Lord was there, like the wind in my hair, and like just the saltiness of the ocean. And then all of a sudden we see his friend coming up with the camera, CJ. So shout out to CJ. So he was very incognito, and then CJ's crying, David's crying, I'm crying, everyone's crying. And it was just a great day. So like leading up to it, it was again a God thing through just every single step and everything. So
I assume your wedding day was beautiful. I saw all the photos, but did you feel God there too?
we did. And just through every single step too. If it was David's way, we would have been married in August.
Wow.
And I told him I needed some time.
Yeah.
I needed some time. But After the engagement, I was still looking for a job, so I was trying to move to Orlando because David's in law school right now in Orlando, and I didn't have a job like lined up. So after the engagement, we were driving back to Tallahassee, and it was Easter Sunday. And I remember after Easter Sunday, I remember sitting with his mom during Easter dinner. I was like, I don't have a job lined up. She's like, what? I was like, yeah, I don't have a job. She's like, it's okay, it's okay. Like, everything's gonna be fine. So here I am engaged, trying to find a job. I don't have my mom to help me plan a wedding. Like, everything now is like crashing into me, like stress. And 3 days later, I got a job offer to come to Orlando.
Wow.
It's so crazy too, because I remember it took me a year to find it. And just again, the Lord was that he always provides. And sometimes we don't think he does, but he does. He might be
Yeah.
working behind the scenes and we're not being like paying attention to it, but he does. And from then on, like every single caterer we work with for our wedding, every single person, like photographers, everything, the last day they had available, like he said August, I said December 13th. Well, he said December 13th, and he's like, okay, that's fine. So all the caterers, the photographers, December 13th was the last day they had available in their schedule
Wow.
for all of 2025, even our venue. And David's like, I mean, if that's not a God thing, I think
Yeah.
we need to put it in ink and put our signature on it because we're about to get married. I was like, all right,
Sure.
okay, 8 month engagement. I've never thought that. I was thinking for me, whenever I got engaged, oh yeah, like a year and a half. Give me some time, like save some money, all this stuff. No, 8 months, and it went by quick.
Oh, I bet. Ours was 15. And I look back on it now wishing it was shorter. I
Uh-huh.
Ike doesn't. Ike's like, there's a reason that God had it at 15. I was like, okay, 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 okay. So I commend you for 8 months planning and working and doing everything.
It was like a second full time job. Whew. But
You don't
it
have to
was
do it
beautiful.
ever again. That's what I keep telling myself. I never have to do that ever again.
Yes, exactly. Unless like a baby shower, but that's like have a couple people. It's only for a day, like 2 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, like looking back on it, like looking back on our pictures, I was like, wow, we did that in 8 months.
You're like, yeah.
And we got like all like I had a couple like girls from Cronkite that were in my wedding. Some people from like my childhood, like all three of my sisters, no, like David's sister. We were able to fly, like people were able to fly in last minute. And it was great. It was so much fun.
That's
So
so sweet. That's
mhm.
amazing. So how is it being a wife?
I highly recommend it. It's so much fun. Because in college, I was this, oh, I'm independent. Like, I don't need a man, all this stuff. Y'all, I need a man. Like, I always tell David, I'm like, what would you do without me? He's like, I would die. Like, literally, I would die. But it's honestly, it's so fulfilling because I think nowadays people look at marriage and relationships of what do I get out of it instead of what can I do to serve this person and bring them joy. Because it brings me so much joy and puts a smile on my face whenever David smiles if I do just the littlest things. Like even just sitting and listening to him talk about law school, sometimes it goes through one ear and out the other because I don't know what he's talking about, but it makes him so happy just seeing me sit and listen and him talking about his day. Even whenever he sees me on TV and he just sends me a video of him just laying in our bed and he's just like, I watched you going back to sleep because I work mornings on the weekend. It brings me so much joy. I love being married. I believe marriage is the greatest gift that the Lord has given us. And I wish a lot more people saw it more as a gift instead of a burden. Because a lot of people will say, my wife this, my husband that. But at the end of the day, yeah, you guys are going to have your flaws. You definitely are going to have your flaws. But the thing about it is you guys have your whole lives together to learn what works, what doesn't, learn about the person, how they feel, like their moods, what they like to eat, what makes them mad. And also, too, growing your relationship with the Lord together is
Yes.
just a beautiful thing, in my opinion. But you're married, too.
I am.
How's being married?
Great. When we'll be 9 months married. So I know, which is crazy.
That went by quick.
I know. I was like, oh. I was like doing the math in my head when someone asked me at church the one day, and I was like 9 months. They're like, oh, I felt like you were literally just married. I was like, no, I know, I feel that too. But I love it. I think it's been such a transformation. God has spoken over 2026 as a year of growth and refinement for Ike and I. And
Mm.
so I used to hate growth. I used to hate change. I used to hate anything that kind of like even looked like something that just didn't kind of stick with me and what I wanted to do. But me being married, honestly, you grow into the person God needs you to be and who he calls you to be. And I look at growth now, as Ike has always said, he goes, growth is an opportunity to honor the Lord and be able to change into who he needs us to be. And I was like, okay, I don't like it, but if this is what God's way of showing us that this isn't going to work in our marriage and we need to do something else, then I need to honor that because at the end of the day, I'm not here to play games. Like you said, I'm not here to kind of just say, okay, great, we're married. Now let's put our hands up and just kind of figure it out on our own. Um, so it's been really sweet. There are hard times. I'm not going to sit here and ever be like,
Mm.
you're never going to fight with your person that you love. You're never going to have hard times because that's not true. And I never really understood what that meant. But forgiveness, I've honestly learned is the best thing that you can ever do is forgive the person that you love and use that just understanding of this is where I came from and how he grew up and this is where I came from and how I grew up and now we're trying to figure this out as a family together. So it's been difficult in some seasons, but it's been honestly the sweetest 9 months that we've had.
Yeah.
So, but our story, kind of like yours, like you can just kind of pinpoint where every God moment was, and our engagement, like I said, was 15 months. We actually did distance for 15 months, and so it was just kind of like every little like even month standpoint and span was on point. Our engagement was exactly where we used to go in college and hang out, and he circled on a map, and and literally the Lord led his friends to set it up in the exact spot. And it was just like so like I'm with you where I'm like when you know and the Lord is in it, you will have that peace and you will see the Lord work through it. And then you can't really like say no at that point because then you're saying no to God and the greatest gift like you said. So, it's been sweet.
Yeah, and also too, like even seeing like it's so cool because like I hung out with Ike, Gareth, um, I hung out with all of them in college, man, and just being able to see just Ike transition to like leading you, it's so cool to see, and even seeing like David like hanging out with his friends and now leading me, it's so crazy how the Lord can just like shift
Yes.
just somebody, just 360. And not like Ike was not bad, period. I'm just gonna
No.
let that out there. Ike was not a bad person, period. It's just like he said, growth is for us so the Lord can use us where he wants us to be. And it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like I even had to like let my guard down and be like, okay, my job as a wife is to submit to my husband. A lot of people are like, oh, submit. I'm not going to do that. But submitting means it's just like listening to him, letting him lead. And also, too, it's not like him being like, oh, I'm 100% the boss. It's like y'all can talk things out. Like David always talks to me and says, you know, how do you feel about this? Or how do you feel about us taking this trip? Or hey, even like dinner. Like, what's for dinner?
No, literally.
It's just like talking with one another. And I think too, it's like now that I can just shut my brain off sometimes, it's so nice and just letting my husband just lead us because where he leads us, I'm just every time we like do stuff, I'm like, wow, that was really good. Like I wouldn't have thought of that.
No, literally. And I need to I'll send you this or I can even like post a link. Our church a couple weeks ago did it's called we're doing like a first love. So it
Mm,
was like returning to your first love was the first week and then returning to your first ministry which is your marriage and it was all
mm,
about submission and what submission isn't and what submission looks like. And he goes, honestly, to be honest, I rather be the woman who has to submit than the man who has to literally die. He goes, if Christ is loving me like, or if he's supposed to love like Christ loved the church, he died for the church. So now this man literally has to die for his wife. I think I'd rather submit than
mm.
die. And I was like, okay, well, when you put it that way, I was like, that really doesn't seem that bad. But he goes, submission is just such like a like almost a curse word in our society now.
Hmm.
But I love the way that you kind of explained it, where it's like it's not just going, yeah, okay, great. He literally said submission is not leaving your brain at the altar. You're still gonna have decisions, you're still gonna have a say, but you married that person for a reason, and God has a reason that marriage is supposed to be that way. And so
Hmm.
I think that was just something that I needed to hear in that moment, and that I feel like our culture and our society needs to hear that it's not a curse word, that it
Absolutely.
actually is beautiful when you actually do it.
Hmm.
But I think I don't really have any other questions. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Is any God doing anything super cool in your life and with David that you guys want to share right now, or
I think right now we're both just like in a season of just like, I guess, education
yeah.
and just like learning how the Lord can use us together. We're still like looking for a church, but we go to a church consistently. We got plugged into small groups and stuff at our church, but I think now it's just, we've only been married for like, what, almost 3 months. So I'm new to the game. I'm not a professional. So, but we are going to our honeymoon in a couple weeks, so I'm super excited. We're going on a cruise. And it's funny because the first cruise we went on, that's whenever we say I loved you, like I love you to each other. So we were just like watching the sunset and we were just like sitting there and then we leaned over and he said I love you. And I was like, "Oh, this is gonna
Okay.
be we're gonna go on a cruise for our honeymoon and relive that."
That's so
We're
sweet.
going on our honeymoon. A lot of people have asked me, they're like, "Oh, when do you want kids?" The Lord will guide us in the steps when He wants us to have kids. That's what
Yeah.
I always tell people. But yeah, nothing really. I mean, I think we're just so in awe of just how the Lord has moved in us in the past 2 years. And 2 years has felt so long, but looking back, it went by so quick to the point where I'm like, what else can the Lord do? Because I'm only 25. David just turned 25 a couple days ago. So like we have so much more life to live and so many more pages to fill in our testimony where I'm more excited than I am like fearful because if the Lord can like pull David through like his mom's diagnosis and going to law school and then like also dealing with the loss with my mom because him and my mom were super duper close. Um so like if we can both go through everything that we went through, like what else can we do? And now
Yeah.
that we have each other, instead of like doing it alone, we have it with each other. It's gonna be so much more like fulfill. Like I can feel like the fulfillment and seeing the Lord move and stuff. So I'm super excited.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing your testimony. Um, I loved your wedding photos, by the way. I was like, oh my God,
Thank
they're
you.
so gorgeous.
You and Ike's look. Sorry.
Thank you.
You and Ike's looked great. I saw Ike in a suit. I was like, okay, he cleans up nice. All
Yeah,
right.
no one wanted him to wear the beard and have the beard. I voted for the beard, and they're like,
He
it's
looks great.
that's what I say. That's what I said every single time. But his friends from high school were like, you're not walking down the aisle with a beard. And I was like, no, he is. Like, you're not marrying each other. Like, if I want a beard in this wedding, there will be a beard in this wedding.
Hey,
So
happy life, happy wife, happy life.
and
Okay.
so his one friend trimmed it for him. I was like, okay, I appreciate the trimming. But yeah, no, the suit he picked out all by himself. Yeah. I gave him like, here's your color scheme, and then him and his mom went shopping and they picked it out. And I was like, perfect.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So it was really sweet. But I hope everyone has a great rest of your week. And thank you again, Ashley, for coming on. It was so nice talking with you and catching up. But I hope everyone has a great rest of your week. Bye, guys.